Hello, I'm Frances Wilson and I'm the culinary instructor of the professional culinary program at Tante Marie's Cooking School. Today we are going to make a celebration of summer, an almond poppy seed cake with peaches, blueberries and raspberries. Today we'll make it as a full cake, but you want to make it in smaller versions. I've made it very successfully as little cupcakes. So make it as a cake, make it as cupcakes. Okay, so the first thing you're going to start with is two 8-inch cake pans, and we're going to line the bottoms of them with parchment paper. So I usually just draw 2 circles with a pencil, and then I will cut it out with a pair of scissors. You can also do it with the tip of your knife, but I find this is quicker and easier. And then just a little bit of melted butter, brush the bottom of the pan. I find that helps to stick the paper in place. Place the circle of paper in the tin and brush again. Same thing with the other second one. Brush it liberally with butter and brush the inside of the pan, and that's to help stick it. The next thing we're going to do is start making the batter for the cake. And I have some almond paste, and it comes handy. This is 7 ounces of almond paste, and you can buy it at the store, and it's already measured, which is pretty handy. And I'm going to break that up into pieces. I'm going to add the paddle attachment to the mixer, and I'm going to start beating it at a slow speed to start with, just to start breaking it up. So I've got 1 cup measurement here, and I'll just scoop a cup of sugar, just level it off, and I'll have that ready to add in to the almond paste. And I'll add it in a little bit at a time, and that's just to start breaking up the almond paste as well. The next thing, while that's working, I'm going to get my eggs ready, and I have 5 eggs here at room temperature. So I'm breaking them into a bowl. Next, the sugar is breaking up the almond paste. We'll keep adding in the sugar. Next thing I'm going to add in is some room temperature butter. I'm going to use some Kerrygold Irish butter. Being Irish, I'm a little prejudiced. I think it's the best butter there is. You can see it's a beautiful yellow color, and this one is salted. And when I'm baking cakes, I actually like to use salted butter, and then I don't have to add any salt into the cake while I'm making it. But this is a beautiful yellow butter, and it's room temperature. It's nice and soft, and you can see when I drop it in, it'll mix well with the sugar and the almonds. And you can turn it up a little bit more. As the butter holds it in, it won't fly around the way it was when it was just sugar. Okay, I'm now going to beat the eggs. We have the 5 room temperature eggs, and I'm just going to lightly beat them so that they combine together. I'm going to add a teaspoonful of vanilla essence to add a little bit more flavor. We're just going to pour it in a slow and steady stream into the butter and sugar. And just add a little bit at a time, but you don't have to stop. So once you have a nice smooth batter, there'll be a little bit of lumps of the almond paste, but that's fine. You can switch the machine off, then you can undo it, and we're going to add in the flour, the lemon zest, and the poppy seeds by hand. And the reason you do that is you don't want to over whip it, because it'll tend to make a tough cake. So just clean the batter off the paddle, and then here I have already made nice sifted flour with the lemon zest in some parchment paper or wax paper. It helps to get it into the bowl all in one go, so I sift onto the parchment paper. And then I'm going to add in a tablespoon of poppy seeds. So a tablespoon of poppy seeds. And we're going to mix very gently. You want to combine the flour, but you don't want to have it so that it is tough. Then you're going to get the pans that you prepared earlier and just divide the batter between the 2 pans. So I'm spreading out the batter in the pan. I'm just going to make a little dimple in the center, and that way it will even out when it's baking. And I'm going to pop it into a 350-degree oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. The oven is preheated so that it's nice and hot when it goes in, and I put it in the center of the oven. While my cake is cooking, I'm going to get started with the filling, and we're going to use some berries today. For the base filling, I'm going to use blueberries. Here in California, we have a very long blueberry season, and I'm going to put the blueberries in a pan. I'm going to add in some sugar and a little bit of lemon zest, and I'll put those on to cook just until the berries have started to pop. Our cake is ready. It's been in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes, and you can usually tell when it's done because you start to smell it. I always say that that's the way to tell when your cake is ready. And when we pull them out of the oven, what you're looking for, you can see that the cake has shrunk away from the sides of the tin, and when I press on it, it springs back. And I'm going to put them on cooling racks and let them sit here for about 5 minutes, and then I will turn them out. Just give them a little time to set up in the tin so that they don't crack when you're turning them out. Okay, now we're going to prepare the cream to go in the cake. And I am using some mascarpone, which is a kind of fermented. I always think of it as kind of halfway between a cream cheese and a just fresh cream. I'm going to start by putting it in the mixer and whipping it up just slowly, just enough to bring it together and kind of smooth it out. And then I'm going to start adding the cream. I don't want to over whip the cream, so I'm going to add it in slowly, always keeping an eye that it doesn't get over whipped. I have the mixer out already, but again, you could do this by hand. So add it in slowly at the beginning so it mixes with the mascarpone, and then you can pick up the speed of adding in the cream. And then it's just got to look like whipped cream. You can tell when the cream is almost ready because you'll start to see kind of the trail of the whisk in the cream. And once I see that, I turn down the speed and I'm really careful. If you do over whip it, you can always add a touch more cream, but I think that's probably good enough. And a lot of times I take it and I finish it by hand because that way I know that I'm not going to over whip it. You can do it really quickly in the machine, whereas if you do it by hand at the very end, get it to the whip, just with the whisk, just whip it up a little bit more. And you want it so that it will hold a shape, but not to be grainy in any way. It should be soft and silky. So after the cake has cooled for about 5 minutes, you're ready to turn it out of the tin. So I take an offset spatula and just run it around the edge and lift the cake out, and you can put the wire track rack on top and turn it out. And then if you're very careful, just very gently pick it up and flip it onto the right side. And we'll do the same thing with the second cake, and then let them cool completely because we're going to be adding the whipped cream with the mascarpone, and if there's any heat left in the cake, it will melt the cream. And I also like to leave the parchment paper on the bottom because that gives me some support when I start to cut the cake. So now our cake is cool, we're ready to start assembling it. So I'm going to take the first piece of cake, or first cake out, and remember I still have the parchment paper underneath, which is going to give me something to move it around on the counter. I put my left hand flat on top, and I take my right hand with a bread knife and I slice the cake, turning it with my left hand and keeping an eye on the edge of the knife so that I can keep it cutting it straight. And that means I can now slide that top piece off, and I'm going to lift this up and peel off the, whoops, I'm going to put it down so that I don't break it, peel off the parchment paper. But you can see how that definitely helped me while I was cutting it. It kind of meant that the cake slid over the counter. And this is going to be the bottom piece. So I'm going to flip it over, and always, if you are a little worried, keep your hand flat, use a spatula, turn it over, and we're going to place that down on the bottom. Then we're going to start with a layer of our cream. This is the mascarpone cream, and you can see it's a beautiful silky cream and very, very soft. And I'll put probably about a quarter of it on top, and then take the offset spatula and spread it out, not all the way to the edge, because when I put the cake on top, it's going to squish it, and so I leave myself a little bit of wiggle room there. So I've sliced up some fresh peaches, and we'll put a few peaches in, and then I add the blueberry mixture, and you can see it's quite thick, but this is the blueberry layer. Then I'm going to grab some of my raspberries, and this is a cake for the summer. I mean, it's a total taste of summer. And then I'll take the other piece of the cake and place that on top and kind of just press it down just a tad. And then another quarter of your whipped cream with the mascarpone, a little bit of blueberries. Just make sure you have enough for the top. We'll put a few pieces of peach, We're going to take the other half of the cake and do the same thing. Take it out and put it on the counter. And it has its parchment paper on. The almond paste in this cake is one of the almond paste and the sugar is what preserves it. And that's why it will last and actually be even better the second day. And then we'll put a little bit more peach and some more blueberries. And then lastly, put on the top. And again, support the cake with both hands. That way you're less likely to break it. But it is a pretty flexible cake. It's very forgiving. And here we go. And then the last bit of whipped cream. And I like to leave it looking very natural. You don't want to smooth it out completely. Just spread it over the top and then take a last little bit of the blueberry mix. Keep it in the center for this, I think, so that it's prettier if it's kind of centered in the cream. And as I say, it will drip down, and then we'll put some nice slices of peach, because it's nice to know what's inside a cake when you make it so that they're not surprised. And then fill in with some of my raspberries and keep it nice and tight on top so that it gives it a little bit of height in the middle. So I'm just going to finish up by decorating the plate with a few edible rose geranium leaves, just to give it a little bit more brightness. And that is my lemon almond poppy seed cake, a celebration of summer. My name is Frances Wilson, and I'm the culinary instructor at Tante Marie's Cooking School, where we train people for careers in the food world.